Call the September 18, 2012 Board of Zoning Appeals meeting to order. Will you please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This time, we'd like to introduce the board members, starting on my right.
Nancy Plesnarski.
Walter Recook.
Gary Willis.
Todd Chernow.
Rita Young.
The Board of Zoning Appeals is a quasi-legal board composed of resident volunteers of the City of Milton. The board is charged with hearing requests for variances from the standards of the zoning ordinance and appeals of administrative determinations. With regard to decisions on primary variances, the board's basis for decision is provided by these four considerations. A, relief if granted would not offend the spirit or intent of the ordinance. And B, there are such extraordinary and exceptional situations or conditions pertaining to the particular piece of property that the literal or strict application of the ordinance would create an unnecessary hardship due to size, shape, or topography, or other extraordinary and exceptional situations or conditions not caused by the variance applicant. And C, relief if granted would not cause a substantial detriment to the public good and surrounding properties. And D, that the public safety, health, and welfare are secured and that substantial justice is done. The sign variance consideration reads as follows. Relief only to the signed ordinance may be granted where existing foliage or structures bring about a hardship whereby a sign meeting minimum letter size, square footage, and height requirements cannot be read from an adjoining public road. At this time, we need to approve the August meeting minutes. I need a motion to.
I'll make a motion for approval.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor of the August 2012 meeting minutes, please raise your right hand. Opposed, same side. It is 4-1 and 1 abstention. Nancy. First case is V11-011, which has been deferred. Angela, will you please present?
Mr. Chair, staff would like to request that this case be deferred once again. We really don't have any new news right now.
We need a motion to defer.
I'll make a motion to defer V11-011 until our next meeting.
I'll second it.
Discussion?
As I recall, the last meeting, they were expecting to hear something more formally back from the state. Is that correct?
Well, staff sent them a letter telling them what the state needed and what we needed, and we haven't heard back.
What does the board think about making a request to hear an update? And Walt, you may be closer to the status on this case.
Again, he came to, this gentleman came to our Soil Water Conservation Board on, in July, and we did approve allowing the structure to remain in the dam failure, the water easement for the lake. And we gave him a form that he was supposed to get back to us. And as of this day, we don't have a meeting till tomorrow, but as of today, I'm unaware of any form being given back to us signed by him. Our attorney wrote up an agreement that he has to sign and get back to us, so I don't know anything more than that.
So any recommendation from either staff or from yourself as to what we can do? Is
I'm in no rush if he's in no rush, but I think, I don't know how many times this is.
This case looks like it's been on the docket for almost a year.
It's over a year.
And, but the interesting thing is it did come in front of our board really back in June or July, so I'd like to give him a couple months to work that out if that's all possible. So,
So is it fair to ask for an update next month from him?
sure.
Can staff request that?
Well, I think just warning him that perhaps his time limit is getting close to short. Maybe that's the best way to put it, is that the board may only consider one more extension if he doesn't get on the hook to get his paperwork wrapped up.
Okay. That was my only concern for discussion.
Any other discussion? All in favor of the motion to defer until the October 2012 meeting, please raise your right hand. Pass unanimously. Next case is V12-010-12775 Arnhem Mill Road. Angela, will you please present?
V12-010, the requested variances are as follows: to allow a dog-eared cap fence adjacent to a public street, to allow a fence adjacent to a public street to exceed 55 inches, to allow a fence adjacent to a public street to remain its natural color, and to allow a fence adjacent to a public street to be opaque. The site, 12775 Arnold Mill Road, is a single-family home located on 1.1 acres. The site is zoned AG1 and is located in the northwest Fulton overlay. The applicant, Italia Motovsky, proposes to build a 6-foot-tall dog-eared wooden privacy fence along the front and side of his property. Arnold Mill Road is a frequently traveled road, and the applicant states that in the past 2 years, the noise level has become overwhelming. The house windows vibrate from passing trucks, and his children's sleep has been disturbed to the point that they cry hysterically for hours, and refuse to sleep alone. Also, Mr. Matovsky feels that the fence will protect him and his family from random people and wildlife entering onto his property. Mr. Matovsky stated to staff that his fence contractor told them that he was a resident of Roswell and therefore did not need a fence permit. They began construction of the fence on the front and side yard. The City of Milton Code Enforcement Officer observed the construction of the fence and advised the owner to cease construction until a fence permit could be issued. However, the fence was completed. After several conversations with City of Milton staff, the applicant removed a portion of the fence along the road and applied for this variance. Section 64.416 states the following, states that fencing along public streets shall be as follows. Number 1, allowed fencing material shall be 3 or 4 board wooden fencing with wood posts. Fence should not exceed 55 inches from grade. Fences should be white, black, or dark brown in color. Opaque fences are prohibited, and fences shall be set back a minimum of 3 feet from a public right-of-way. Because Mr. Matovsky proposes a 6-foot-tall, dog-eared, capped, opaque fence, and he wants to keep it its natural color, a variance is required. The Design Review Board met on September 4th and offered the following comments. The members support the city's effort to limit what style of fence can go along the road. They understand that the city is trying to prevent unmaintained, sagging dog-eared fences. They suggested that the applicant would obtain better results with noise abatement with trees, and suggested that the applicant get letter of support from the adjacent property owner. Additional department comments: building plan review, site plan review, DOT stormwater had no comments. The arborist stated that additional screening materials could be added for extra screening and for visual and for noise. The standards for consideration were stated earlier, and the applicant responds as follows. The noise and speed of the traffic on Arnold Mill Road creates a hazard to me and my family. It is my priority to ensure that my family and guests are safe and not disturbed by noise, deer, and random people. Recommending conditions. Should the board choose to approve this application, staff recommends the following conditions. The fence shall be stained black or brown. This concludes the staff presentation.
At this time, are there any questions from the board to staff? Yes, sir.
Yes, Angela, on the property, It looks like there's more than just, there's a fence that goes along the side property lines that's actually in front of the house. Is that legal?
Technically, you're not supposed to have an opaque fence if it can be, well, yes, that's fine. That's fine, it's chain link, that can't be seen to the road. Just can't be adjacent to the road.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to understand. So you're saying that it's okay to put an opaque fence on the side property lines, but what represents adjoining? In other words, is it adjoining at a point that it's in the front yard setback? Is it adjoining only when it's parallel to the road? Is it, I'm just trying to understand what you mean by adjoining the public street, if that's a term that's used in the definition of the fence.
So it's along public streets.
Okay, just along public streets, so, so again, if it's on the side property line, and it's near the public street, that's okay.
We don't have a problem with that, correct?
Okay, so it doesn't have to stop at the
Correct.
front building line, okay. And as far as the back property line, same applies, that they could have an opaque fence of this character?
Correct.
This style? And again, on the side, same thing, they can have this type of fence. Is there any variance they need for having it over 55 inches for the side?
No, it can go up to, I think it can go up to 8 feet.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any other questions to staff from the board? This time we'd like for the applicant to please come forward and present, and if you would state your name and address for the board, we'd certainly appreciate it.
When you finish, can you fill out where the yellow cards come out?
Excuse me.
Go ahead and present, you can fill that out when you're done, sir. Thank you.
My name is Ilya Mitovsky. I'm the owner of the property. The reason I'm here, I'll try to put the fence, but not have, there's nobody not tell me that I need to ask Milton for permit. I'll hire the company, they say that my address located Alpharetta, even my driver license show Alpharetta. If they start to build it, after they start to build it, they almost finish, the city show up, they say, we need to stop. I say, okay, I'll come to see what I need to do. They say, you need to remove it because you do not have permit. I'll ask him, guys, why you don't take the permit? You're the company, big company, okay, I already pay you guys. They say, by the law, your driver license, everything showed Alpharetta, we don't need permit for Alpharetta. Anyway, short, they tell me I need to remove it. I'll pay him today, remove it, they put her in the ground. After that, I'll appeal here to you guys to see what's going on. The whole reason, she already tell you, he's extremely noisy, he's not safe. He's really, it's like a highway, okay? They're driving 45, he's a permit, but they're driving much more. I'll clean that property every Sunday, bottles, cigarette, everything. They just driving trash. So noisy. Actually, from the trucks, truck uses the air brake. We have a curve like a close to the house. Always they're driving fast to come to the make a left. They use the air brake. Very hard. Everything vibrating. House is like 30-year-old. It's a good house, but noise is extreme. That's the truth. Plus, I'll have a kids. They're afraid to get out. I need to say my wife. They play a little bit like 10, 20 minutes. Otherwise, unsafe, absolutely. That's the reason I asked for that permit. Allow me to put that fence, okay? No another reason, just that. Now, in the beginning, before I'll spend the money, it's gonna be much better with the tree or this, I'm gonna do that. I'll just try to find the reasonable offer. I'll see the $5,000 is reasonable to put nice fence. Fence be really nice, I'll have picture, everything, okay? But after that, I'll find you need to be removed. Now, now it's so late to put the tree because it costs more money, or how do you spend? She's sitting like this now. That's the whole point. I'm sorry for my language is not pretty
So
clear.
you're doing
You're
terrific.
doing great.
You're doing great.
I'll try to follow the rules here. Make it clear.
Any questions? Yes, sir.
So, did you consider doing some sort of tree or large shrub like a holly or a cryptomeria
No,
for screening purposes?
I'm gonna do decoration, yeah. I'm gonna do decoration, definitely. But first, after then you allow me to put that fence, I'm gonna do grass, everything already been leveled, everything. Okay, I'm gonna do decoration in the both side. Okay, with the very nice, some small trees. Okay, something nice. It's gonna be nice. It's gonna be. That's my house anyway. Okay.
So how far, are you intending to build this fence along the Arnold Mill Road, parallel to the road? How near the setback are you planning on building it to the right of way?
I'm not really sure. They'll tell you exactly. Gonna lie to you. I'm not pretty familiar about that, but it's gonna be a long way from the road. Probably like maybe more from like 10 feet, okay, maybe 11 from the road. But just you're gonna help me because the homeowner is gonna jump to the fence. He's gonna get in the top in the house. Actually, I'll get the fence 4 days. For the 7 year in that house, first 2 days I'll get sleep in the morning. Okay, that's why. That's been the difference. First day, even I'll get surprised. Have an echo. We talk each other. We hear the echo because the fence. Before that noise, that's for real. Okay. Plus, so many neighbors ask what happened to the fence. I say I need to remove it. They say why? I'll explain him. They say really? I'll say yeah, really. He say oh, sorry. Everybody asks. Plus, so many people stop to ask who built the fence to give him the business card. They like it. But I don't know.
Do you have any letters of support from the property owners that are
Yeah,
adjacent
I'll
to
just
you?
give you
Okay.
my both neighbor right on the right side.
How many children do you have and how old are they?
2, 1, 5, 1, 7.
Thank you.
Yeah.
By the way, 4, but 2 in the overseas, they come, they bigger actually, okay? Those 2 is important, another one is bigger. No problem.
Any other questions to the applicant?
On the fence that you're proposing, are you planning to put a gate where your driveway is, or how are you going to do where the fence hits your driveway?
Actually, gonna be, it's not now, but probably after a few months, I'm gonna put something like a metal open here, okay? It's gonna be open like this.
A
Right.
gate.
Gate open, okay? But that's gonna be probably after, maybe next year, okay?
Okay. And as far as the fence goes, what the city code requires is that 3 or 4 board fence. And I know that it's a different style fence than you were thinking of. What was the big reason why you didn't want to have that kind of fence? Why didn't you want to do what's allowed or required?
Because I will put the fence for decoration, I'll put the fence to stop the noise.
Okay.
That our city alone is like a horse fence, she's
Right.
almost no fence, but fence for
Sure.
the horse, for the animals, okay? But it's for the stop to noise or something like this, nothing.
Okay.
Just that.
I have a question in relation to yours. What's the length of the front of the yard? What would be the length of the fence that you're looking at putting?
Can you repeat?
How long of a fence would you be putting across the front of the yard? Approximately.
I don't know why, I'll have the whole paper in the cards from the company. I'll think so it's like
About 200 feet.
180, exactly 180.
180?
So 180 subtract the driveway.
Well, just
Is it 180 subtracting the driveway or 180 plus the driveway?
180 will show the driveway will gonna be empty.
Okay. So it's back to that 200 probably.
Probably, yes.
Yeah, so that's what.
Well, and what I'm trying to understand is, would it be reasonable to meet your needs as well as the city's desire by having a 3 or 4 board fence with some plantings, so that you would have the screening from the plantings for sound purposes, and you'd have a fence there for to keep the children in and the animals out, as you described.
I understand, but I already spent $5,000 here, I just gonna need to trash it those five, actually day 6, because they charge me $1,000 to remove it, okay? I'll need to trash it those money then.
I understand,
But anyway, I'm gonna put the decoration for sure, because I'm gonna put the grass and everything inside, okay? Right now it's plain, already leveled, put everything.
Any other questions to the applicant? Thank you, sir. This time we'd like to open the floor for public comment. Is there any? Okay. Sir, as there's no public comment, you do have the opportunity for a closing statement or anything else that you would like to add. If you would like to, it's up to you. Okay. Thank you. Any questions from the board to staff? At this time, I'd like to close the public hearing, and the floor is open for a motion. Mr. Trunick?
For once, I'm adopting Walt's approach of trying to figure out something that would work for both viewpoints, and I'm having a hard time with that, so.
Motion, somebody?
I'm going to make a recommendation on V12-010, recommend denial to allow a dog-eared cap fence adjacent to a public street, as well as allowing the fence to exceed 55 inches and natural color, and making it opaque. The reason for
Let's
my
get a second first. I'll do a second for discussion.
The reason for my recommendation is that we've had other situations where we've made a very strong point that the city has a certain standard of the type of fence that's required. It's the 3 or 4 board fence, that there are options with screening, as well as you can put an earthen berm. You can do a number of things if you want to look at reducing sound, and I know in this case I even went through some extra data to try to see what the traffic volumes are on that street. It's kind of surprising to me that the actual traffic volumes have been going down, not up. From 2007, it was at 23,180. Present traffic volumes is 19,230. This is basically from George DOT at traffic counter 0334. I do know it's a busy street. I've been by that property many, many times, and I know I've seen some other homes just down the street from you that they have placed Leland's there with no fence, right there at the curve. There's a guardrail, and they seem to be living there. And believe me, I hate doing this, because I mean, I think you could ask the other people on the board. There's very few times that I don't want to try to find some ways. Even you heard Mr. Chernick try to come up with some solution, but this is one part of our code that I know that is probably the hardest for a lot of our community members to abide by. But this is something that we have seen in the past where people have allowed dog-eared type fences. And I can take you one that's not far from my home on Birmingham Highway, just north of White Columns entrance, and the thing is warped. It's warped to the bottom, it's warped to the top, and the thing is only about 6 to 7 years old. They didn't use pressure-treated, or they did use pressure-treated wood, but they didn't use cedar wood, and the fence warped. And I'm not sure that's the look the community wants, and this was a hard-fought battle. I can tell you, because I was involved with the actual writing of the original document that restricted fences in the community. If you came back to me and said, Walt, maybe I'll go with a decorative, some other kind of fence, and then we'll do some screening, maybe that's a different issue. But with a solid, opaque, wood board fence, it's very hard for us to accept that. And I feel so bad for you, and I regret that that fence company did what they did to you, and that's terrible. But believe me, I'd rather approve it, but at the same time, I know what we have to do with any other projects we've had. We had a lot of other requests like this, and we've pretty much said no.
Any other discussion?
May I say something, Paul?
I'm sorry.
Sorry. We have a motion to not deny and a second. And the denial is to allow a dog-eared cap fence adjacent to a public street, to allow a fence adjacent to a public street to exceed 55 inches, to allow a fence adjacent to a public street to remain its natural color, and to allow a fence adjacent to a public street to be opaque. All in favor of this denial, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. That passed unanimously. I'm sorry, sir.
Want me to remove it?
Just that portion that's in the front, not the sides, not the back. Just in the front, I'm sorry to say.
But anyway, you guys need to pay more attention in that place. I'm gonna sold the house because I know that anyway, but that street is really going to extend.
I know it is. I know. And it's going to get worse.
Don't say, don't say.
I understand.
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
Sure. I know. But you have to follow the,
Our next case is V12-011, which was deferred from last month's meeting. Angela, will you please present?
Mr. Chair, the staff would ask to have this case deferred into our next meeting. The city is still trying to finalize site plans and to get the signature of the adjoining property owner.
Do we have a,
I'll make a motion to defer case V12-011
do we have a second?
I'll
to the
second.
next meeting.
I'll second.
Thank you. Discussion? We have a motion to defer V12-011 to our October 2012 meeting. All in favor of that deferral, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Pass unanimously. Our next case is V12-012 to reduce the side setback on lot 107 from 15 feet to 10 feet. Angela, will you please present?
The site, 13344 Flamingo Road, is a single-family home located in the Hidden Forest subdivision. The subdivision is located in the Highway 9 overlay, includes single-family homes and townhomes, and is zoned TR, Townhouse Residential. The subject property consists of .142 acres. The applicant, Javad Oskoyi, hope I got that right, states that the width of the building pad under current conditions is not wide enough to build a house similar to the neighbors' houses. He needs a minimum building pad width of 38 feet 6 inches to build the desired house. There is a 20-foot sewer easement on the southern side of the lot, 10 feet of which encroaches onto lot 107. Were it not for this easement, the side setback would be 7 feet. Without the requested variance, the lot width at its smallest would be 35 feet. Approval of the variance would allow a building pad width of at least 40 feet. Staff notes that a variance was previously approved, which included this lot. V10-017 allowed the reduction of the rear setback from 35 feet to 26 feet. Section 64, 669, 1C states that the minimum side yard adjacent to a street is 15 feet. Since the applicant requires a 10-foot setback, a variance is required. The standards for consideration were stated earlier, and the applicant responds as follows. The variance for which we are requesting would in no way affect the ordinance if granted. The ordinance, if taken strictly without the requested variance, would create unnecessary hardship in that the property would not be able to be used to the same potential as neighboring properties. Relief, if granted, would not cause a substantial detriment to the public good and surrounding properties. In fact, it would help retain the value of the surrounding properties by enabling the construction of a home that is similar to the pre-existing homes and not one with lesser dimensions. Public safety, health, and welfare are secure, and there will indeed be substantial justice. Should the board choose to approve the application, staff recommends the following conditions. Staff has no conditions at this time.
Angela, could you go back and read page 4 out of 9, please?
Yes, that was quick.
Thank you.
Design Review Board met on September 4th and offered the following comments. The applicant clearly has the hardship due to the sewer, and there is no house on the side of the reduction. Anyone buying the other houses would see the existing house when they buy. Additional department comments, building plan review, site plan review, the arborist and DOT stormwater had no comments. And I think I got everything now. So that concludes the staff presentation.
Thank you. Questions to the board or to staff on the board? Yes, sir.
Angela, it's mentioned in the staff notes that this lot was previously part of a variance request. Was that a group request? I seem to recall that there's a row along the back.
There
of
was,
this
that was a concurrent variance. The one you're thinking of was a concurrent variance that went along with the modification. They reduced the perimeter setback.
Right.
And you all saw that as a courtesy review. So it was that one, and then there was this one specifically for this setback.
For this lot?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And with the, I understand that the public safety didn't make any notations, but would shifting this building closer to the corner create any line of sight issues or anything of that nature from a public safety standpoint?
No, the road width wouldn't be changing, so they're fine with that. And also, he'd still have the 10-foot setback from house to house. So
Okay.
building's happy too.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions to staff on the board? This time we'd like to ask the applicant to please come forward and present. And if you would state your name and address, we'd certainly appreciate it.
My name is Javad Askawi. This is a tourist road, for subdivision. We are talking about this lot here, 107, and Angela Nation is a GR zoning, and we are asking for the use of the north side setback from 15 feet to 10 feet. And I don't think this is going to affect to any other houses. By doing that, we are going to increase the value of the house, because if not, it's going to be too narrow, according to what we have already agreed with this section. That's the reason we are asking the board to approve it.
Any questions from the board to the applicant?
Were you the original developer or are you just the builder?
I was the original developer of the subdivision.
And were you not aware of this requirement when you were developing your subdivision, in which case you would have to have had certain setbacks that would fit a certain building? And could you not have revised your plans to accommodate something like this?
Actually, be honest with you, we were trying to have the same as is attached instead of detached before.
Sure.
But the market is changed. I have some houses I cannot even sell it. But
Sure.
the section is working very well, and I have a master in architecture also. I'm working on every single plan according to the site path that we have. I tried my best. I didn't want to ask for variance. I know I'm obligated about what we have done probably in 2001. I believe they approved it in 2003. But I did my best. It's not going to work very well. And I'm not going to approach to the 24 feet wide road. We are going to have it. Besides that, we are going to have 10 feet side setback minimum, and there is no adjacent house to that. And even these three houses, we haven't even started building. It's not gonna
Right.
bother anybody.
Well, it looks to me like this lot is going to be, it's not really going to be a townhome house, really. It's going to be one single building. It's not going to have an adjoining common wall that you would think of a common townhome, that this is a separate house. Is that not correct?
That's correct.
So the benefit of having the lot a little bit wider would allow you to put a bigger home to some degree, or perhaps have different house plans you could fit on it. Is that correct?
I studied, as I said, I like to have a two-car garage. I know the
Sure.
TR zoning that they allowed me to have even one-car garage. But I think the neighbor are not going to be happy about it. That's the reason by having at least 20 feet for the garage and almost 6 feet for the entrance, I like to have a little bit of space on the side to put it like a living room, formal living room, or another bedroom. Some people, they have a small child, they like to bring a mother-in-law or somebody to live with them. We need to have minimum 38 feet 6 inches, and neither of those houses that we have built here is less than 38 feet 6 inches.
Sure. Well, it sounds to me like you're trying to build a bigger home than what would typically be found in a townhome subdivision. So for that, I commend you, and also having a bigger home to fit on a lot like that. So that sounds something to our benefit.
It's going to be similar to the rest of this section.
Right. Okay. Well, good.
Any other questions to the applicant from staff? Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
This time, we'd like to open up the floor for public comment, if there is any. Okay.
I have to give him a hard time. He was the one who developed it.
Do you have a comment? Sure, and then after you speak, fill out one of those yellow cards and just state your name and address, please.
I'm Virginia Mingo, and I live in that subdivision, 3548, and I just wanted to see where he's going to do that change, and I hadn't seen it, that's all.
And are you okay with it?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
With no further comments, sir, you do have the opportunity to make a closing statement. If you have any additional thing you'd like to add, that's up to you. Thank you. Any questions to staff from the board? At this time, I'd like to close the public hearing, and the floor is open for a motion. Yes, sir.
Chairman, I'd like to make a motion for approval of petition V12-012. This is to allow the reduction of the north side setback on lot 107 from 15 feet to 10 feet.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion?
The reason for my recommendation for allowing the variance is due to the configuration of the lot, as well as the sewer easement that is uncommon to other lots in that area. Plus, unlike many townhomes, that this will be a single-family home on this lot. It will not have an adjoining walls. So I think for the overall spirit and intent of the neighborhood, that this will be a positive for the community.
Any other discussion? We have approval and a second to approve V12-012 to reduce the north side setback on lot 107 from 15 feet to 10 feet. All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign, and pass unanimously. Thank you, sir, and good luck.
Good luck to your project, and ma'am, I'm hoping you're happy in your new home. Yeah,
Oh, am I happy now?
yeah, well, good.
Good.
Our next case is V12-013 to allow a guest house in the front yard. Angela, will you please present?
The site, 16485 Hopewell Road, is a 6.357 acre lot zoned AG1. It is located in the Northwest Fulton overlay and includes a small unoccupied house. The applicants, Gloria and Antonio Hernandez, plan on building a 2,600 square foot home on the front half of their property. They want to repair the exterior of the existing house and use it as storage. The applicant also states that they like the idea of the preservation of some history of the area and the quaint farm-like setting that the house contributes to. Staff notes that the existing structure cannot be seen from the road due to extensive vegetation. Section 641598-5 states that the location for a guest house shall be limited to the rear yard. The Hernandezes plan on building their new house behind the existing structure, placing the existing structure in the front yard. Therefore, a variance is required. On September 4th, the DRB offered the following comments. The house won't be seen from the street, and they suggested that the applicant bring the plans for the new house to the BZA meeting. Additional department comments. Building plan review, site plan review, the arborist, DOT stormwater all had no comments. The standards for consideration were stated earlier, and the applicant responds as follows. At present, neither the existing nor the new structure would be visible from the road, thanks to quite a few large trees in the front. We feel the granting of this variance would not offend the spirit or the intent of the ordinance, nor cause any detriment to the public good and surrounding properties, that the public safety, health, and welfare would still be secured, and substantial justice will be done. Recommended conditions. Should the board choose to approve this application, staff recommends the following conditions, and staff has no conditions at this time. This concludes the staff presentation.
Any questions from the board to staff?
Angela, just out of curiosity, I'm still trying to figure out on the picture, I guess maybe we have to wait for the applicant, which is is that existing older home, like almost on the property line?
No, actually, I don't think the packet had a site plan in there. Let me give you the site.
Well, I've got a site plan.
Yeah, we have site
Page
plans.
8,
Okay.
but I guess I'm
Which
just,
picture are you referring to?
I'm trying to understand,
That picture, yeah.
I'm trying to understand this area right here that I scribbled in. Is that an existing house? Sure.
That, yeah, that confused me too. That's just from the dimensions.
Okay,
Yeah, it got that
because
confused.
it looks like, but that is,
Extension of the house, yeah, no, that's
okay,
just.
so it's not the extension of an existing house?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just.
These are just dimensions from
Correct.
the, okay. All right.
Any other questions to staff? This time, we'd like to ask the applicant to please come forward and present, and if you would state your name and address for the board, we'd certainly appreciate it.
Basically, Angela stated everything. Our thing thing is that the present structure is sound. We consider it a waste economically. It would diminish also the value of the property, just theirs to have, instead of to take away would be better. To build in the front of the property because of the depression in the, if we were to leave that and respect that present structure, to build in front would put us all the way in the front of the property. I mean, and with all that land behind, which is a little bit more remote, it's not like, I mean, it will be right at the front. It would also, there's beautiful, huge trees in the front that would be a shame to disturb in any way. And like we said, it would also take away from the history of the area. The neighbors are actually happy with the idea of preserving Monkton's house, which was for a lady that used to live there. And that's basically it.
Questions to the applicant from the board? Yes, sir.
Do you have any letters from your adjoining neighbors that, and what do they recommend, if you don't mind? What do they recommend? Are they happy with what you're doing?
They would like to have Montine, which is a lady that used to live there, the house preserved as well.
Okay. And as far as putting your new house where you're saying, they like that too? Okay.
She just gave me a letter from the property law owners of 16475, and they say we have no contradiction to the proposed variance.
Any other questions to the applicant from the staff? Yes, sir.
On your septic system for the existing house, are you outside of any field lines or septic fields? For the old house, are you, do you know what I mean by septic fields?
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
the little, for the new house?
No, for the old house.
With reference to the new one?
Yes.
Yeah, they're way apart.
Okay, good. And as far as the well, are you still going to be on the well when you?
Not on that one. That one, we would need a new well, and that's also way away. That's gonna be towards somewhere with check. Either way, it would have to be to the right of the proposed structure.
Exactly. That's what I wanted to make sure of because.
It's gonna be away from the setback that has to be from the.
That's right.
And from either of the two houses.
Right, okay. I just want to make sure you're aware of that as well, because are we going to have any problems with a well house? Is that considered a structure? Do we have to give any special?
Actually, they can go in the front yard.
Okay.
And the well house would be really close to that.
Okay.
Any other questions to the applicant from staff? As there's no public comment, is there anything else you'd like to add or state? Thank you. You may have a seat. Any questions to staff from the board? This time, yes, sir?
Is this really a guest house? I mean, it seems like really it's kind of the other way around. This may be an actual bigger house than the house in front.
It's actually smaller than the house they're proposing, and they're not going to actually use it as a residence. I think she just wanted to use it as storage. It's gutted right now. But for lack of something better to call it, we're calling it a guest house.
Okay.
And I do have one more question for Seth. They reference it being a 2,600 square foot structure that they're looking to build.
Yes.
Should we reference this guest house per the site plan, I'm guessing is? I mean, if we just say guest house, it's wide open, right?
I think because the way this is setting itself up is the existing house is going to become the guest house. Is that?
Well, the existing.
Yeah.
That's correct.
So if you reference the existing house as shown on the plat, that will become the approved guest house.
Gotcha. Yeah, you got what I was getting at. Okay.
Any other questions? At this time, I'd like to close the public hearing, and the floor is open for a motion. Yes, sir?
I'd like to make a motion for approval of variance V12-013. This is to allow an existing guest house, I'll put in parentheses, existing house in the front yard.
To allow that to be the guest house?
Right. So that's the only existing house on the property, so I didn't think it needed to be clarified anymore by a plaque, because it's the only house on the property as it stands right now.
I'll second. Any discussion? We have a motion to approve V12-013 to allow a guest house, in parentheses, existing house, in the front yard. All in favor of the motion, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Pass unanimously. Thank you, ma'am. Good luck.
Thank you.
Good luck. Thank you for investing in our community.
Any new, any old business? I make a motion to adjourn.
Is this your first motion?
It is.
Oh, wow.
No, let's stonewall
I'll second it.
They've already got a second. Thank goodness. Discussion? All in favor of adjournment, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. It passed unanimously.
Nasty letters. Nasty letters. Oh, did he come back? I didn't even notice.